Hello, YouTube. Welcome, dear friends, and welcome, my lovely co host.
Hello, hello. Happy Monday. Let me
Happy.
get Instagram going here. And we're live on Instagram. Well, welcome. Welcome to YouTube and 3 Facebook pages. And what else? We got Twitch and Rumble and iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And I think I got them all, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Apple Music
Apple Music. There we go.
or Apple Podcasts,
I know, right?
yeah.
Anyway, hello. How was your Monday?
My Monday was good. It was a good Monday so far. Anyway, it's almost over, so it was a good day.
Yep.
I feel like the crud that I had that was passing through last week is a little bit better. So still others are dealing with it, but I'm doing really well. So, which is a lot to say because my husband had the crud and he was going on like 4 weeks, but I did
Oh,
a few natural things and I'm over it.
yay.
So, how about you? How was your Monday?
It was a dumpster fire. I I worked today and I got onto the client site and I couldn't get into their Outlook in their environment. I could open Outlook and it would disconnect. And then it got to the point where I just couldn't even open Outlook. And all of the workshops that I was supposed to teach were the documents were in Outlook. Thank goodness nobody showed for my 2 workshops, but yeah, it was a day. Anyway, it's hopefully will be fixed by the time I log in the morning.
Yeah,
But if that's the least of things, it was a good day, right?
exactly. In the full scheme of things, it
Yep.
was minimal, and
Yeah.
so yeah, it was. How was your weekend? Any big exciting things this weekend?
We worked on the property, and let's see, I think it was like high of like 77 on Saturday, and it got to like 81, 82 on yesterday on Sunday. Um, so it's so funny. I don't know if anybody's seen my Instagram post, but my Apple Watch yesterday registered that I did 11 flights of stairs. Um, and I'm like, no, pretty sure that the property that we have that has basically nothing on it doesn't have stairs. Apple Watch. uh, I think what it registered was the fact that there's a certain stretch of where we're putting our driveway in, and my husband was basically he took the box blade up and down and it would kick up more twigs and root balls of the mesquite trees, and I got to walk up and down and pick them up. So I bent over probably about, I think I estimate like 50 million times. My abs are sore today, which is really funny. I actually did this Saturday and Sunday, picking up that stuff and everything. So I got a good workout.
Yeah, sounds like it. I have to go to my dungeon for a workout. I wish I had property like that where I could just be outside, let alone in that weather. I mean, our
Oh,
weekend was nice, but it was 30 some degrees, I think, here today. And
oof.
with the wind, it felt like 20. The high tomorrow, I think, is in the 20s. So it's a little bit cool. But yeah, where you're carrying things up out of a hole, and here I am, in my dungeon, what I call my dungeon. um hey, it's all exercise, right? It's all movement,
A
and that's the
movement.
big thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, let me tell you, after a while, I was a huff and puffing, kept it's like I kept thinking, oh, for crying out loud, there's another, I mean, they're chunks. Like they're not like I'm not picking up little tiny twigs. I'm picking up like chunks of wood. And it's like, oh, for crying out loud, there's another one. It's like, oh, I gotta bend over again. It cracked
Yeah.
me up. But yeah, it was still nice being out there, and it's it's become our happy place, right? It's well, I was talking to a friend of mine earlier tonight, and we were talking about using the facilities, and
Mm.
and she says, "Oh, if you have to use the facilities, you can just go to a gas station?" And my husband and I both were like, "No, the nearest facilities is probably about 10, 15 miles away." So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. You end up roughing it.
Yeah, yeah.
Find the nearest bush.
Yes, exactly. And we carry toilet paper with us. We carry it. There's some hidden in our tractor. We've got a compartment. There's some in the tractor, and we've got some in the I carry in my car and in his truck. So yeah, and then we have a building out there, and so there's even toilet paper in the building. Like, what a thing to have to think about, right? Isn't that
Yep.
funny?
Yep. Well, and that's kind of in regards of, speaking to movement, right? Daily
Hmm.
daily movement. That was one of the so we posted on social media earlier, right, in regards of questions. And that was one of the questions was how to end up incorporating um, you know, how let me read it. How do we incorporate daily movement? Is low impact walking enough? Yes, any form of movement, right? We have some that just need to get a few steps. We have others that are in the gym, right?
Hmm.
I shoot for 20 to 30 minutes of movement or dungeon activity um, a day, but not everyone has that. So it's kind of meeting people where they're at. And I mean, you as an example, right? If all you can do is go outside and, clean up the property, cut down some trees, load some logs, whatever the case may be, that's good.
Yep.
It helps with range of motion, it helps with activity, it gets the blood flowing.
Absolutely. So, like, yeah, I haven't, I won't be able to do yoga this week. So that at least I got some good movement in. Um, Again, I'm working this week basically 8 to 4. So, and I'm the only one on this project for this week. And so I can't like get up like I do a lot of times and take a break and go outside and get some sun or, kind of walk up and down. I just won't get that. So, yeah, so I ended up, using my grounding. I'm plugged in and I have that hooked up so I can at least get some grounding in while I'm sitting here. But yeah, any kind of movement is good. Um, I the thing I find is like the times that I went, you know what? I'm gonna walk and I'm gonna walk a mile and I walk a mile. And all of a sudden, instead of that leisurely walk, I find myself like, "Oh, I gotta push myself. Oh, I gotta do more. Oh, let me go a little over a mile." And like I do it to extremes and I've had to learn to back that down so I'm not quite as because I'm gonna fail is my point, if that makes sense.
Well, yep, absolutely. And that's kind of what I've done this go round, right? Because we kind of talked about that of I can be very consistent. We talked in the BNC community, I think about it. I don't know that we talked on YouTube here about it, but I can be consistent in several other areas, right? Whether I'm traveling, what I'm doing, I can be very consistent in these areas. My grounding, my sun exposure, all of that. I can be very, very consistent. But when it comes to like my workouts, yes, I get my daily movement, right? I go out, I do my morning grounding, I, do that, but it's not that consistency with intentional 20 to 30 minute chunk, right? It's maybe a couple minutes here, especially during the winter time
Mhm.
because, sub-zero, I'm not going to end up and be out there as long, right? But it was never really that set consistency with 20 to 30 minute chunk or block, whatever you want to say. And so to your point in regarding the failing side, that's one of the mottos I've used for years. I mean, it popped up in my Facebook of fail to plan, plan to fail. And that's exactly what I did this go round with my activity is I planned it out again. I scheduled it out. I have it listed, whether I'm doing upper body, whether I'm doing the elliptical, whether I'm doing cardio, whether I'm doing lower body, and even to your point, where you want to go more, right? Yes, with the weights, I want to end up and see that progression. But I also have it planned of this is how many sets I'm going to do. This is how many reps I'm going to do. This is, tentatively, right, what I'm going to do for weight. And the next time I end up and, plan, maybe that's next week, maybe that's 4 weeks from now, because I'm not going to push myself and get injured. That's only going to end up and set me back. And so I have that all planned out. And sometimes, yes, life gets in the way. For instance, Saturday, I was just getting in, to my workout, got one whole, set done or superset circuit, whatever you want to end up and call it, done when I got a phone call and I had to leave my workout. And so I just simply, yes, I showed up to the gym. I didn't count it as failing because I was there, but I moved the rest of the workout to the next day. So I still got the same, lower body workout in. It was just altered a little. And that's a little bit different than, just plainly not showing up.
Yeah.
But
yeah, most definitely. So you want to switch gears and
sure.
Let's talk about our blog.
Oh, yes.
You want to? So we didn't really go into much of it last week, but so I'll go ahead and put it in the chat. So
you got the link,
started
otherwise I got it.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
So go ahead and tell them what we did. I know we kind of talked about it last week, but
in regards to
why why did we do this? Why did we put another thing on our plate?
Right? Why did we do this? Because one, it's that accountability. It's that showing up. But you never know where life's going to end up and go. And I'm not going to get into specifics, other than we never know. Sorry, Instagram. We never know if you're going to end up and be there. Facebook, same with y'all. We never know when you're going to end up and be there. And the blog is one space that we both post in, and I post my workout. I haven't got tonight's workout posted in there yet. And I don't even know. There's like 2 pages worth of a blog post between the two of us. I did get yesterday's posted. I'm like, I don't even know if I got yesterday's. I did get yesterday's. But we started that so that people can follow along. It's the written out, basically, the written out version of our Instagrams. What we end up when we focus on, what we end up when we do. Eventually, it will go in a little bit more depth. Right now, it's workout with a few other topics on mindset, sleep, goals, those type of things. But eventually, it will be a like what I ate today, for instance. I was actually working on that post, and I had let's see if I can actually pull up the picture, because one of the things with the activity that I am doing is it won't pull it up. Altering my nutrition, right? That's one of the things we should always end up and learn is not to be set and doing the same thing 365 days. So our food and nutrition needs to adjust with what our goals are, what we're seeing, what we're doing. It's only a part of what we do. So that's why, it's not necessarily one of the first things that we put on there. But yeah, it's going to have the full healing the whole body beyond nutrition as well, which is why, like I said, it's not on there yet, but that is part of the path to well-being, is what is at the end of our fork. So
Yeah, and I just posted earlier today, I
so
wrote Nature's Ultimate Healer, Sleep. So I discussed that because that was something that really eluded me when I first started my healing journey 3.5 years ago. I mean, it was constantly hearing about, oh, you need to get sleep. And I would think, nice.
mhm,
How? Right?
mhm.
Like I didn't know how, and it was a process for sure to be able to get some sleep. Doesn't mean that every night I get 7 to 8 hours. I mean, I was same with you, right? Life happens, kids and everything else. But if you can get a lot of the and that's kind of what I talked about in my blog today, was just what happens when your mind races, and why is sleep so really important? And I kind of go into that on my blog that I talked about today. So hopefully I put a link in the chat. So if you want to read it, and then, you've been very diligent about, putting your different workouts and being very
Mhm.
diligent about that. And I love that. Again, there are people out there that aren't on social media. Um, and this is another way to stay connected with those folks. But yeah, it's just another avenue of what, like, we titled it Healing the Whole Body beyond nutrition. Like we took our podcast name and the BNC community Beyond Nutrition, and we combined it because that's who we are.
And we'll have expert contributors as well. So other
Hmm.
people will also contribute from time to time with a blog post. Our other BNC coaches will end up and contribute with blog posts, whether that's on like the mental health side of things, whether that's on more um, addiction side of things with Coach Sly, breath work with Kevin. He's got some great breath work tips. So all of
Hmm.
that ends up, it plays a role in what we do, and we talk about it in the community. But sometimes people are like, okay, so I'm supposed to do breath work. What I breathe all the time, right? Um,
Yeah.
and that's where he'll end up and be able to do like a beginner's blog post, and why it's important and that type of thing. So they'll contribute to that too. But
Yep. So I don't know. It's this was before we started. Becky and I were like, what are we going to talk about today? Today, like we didn't know. We had It was a Monday, and then I think, who planned having a podcast on Monday? Oh, we did. Yeah, that would
right.
be us. Yeah, yeah.
Well, and that's where someone that had to ask when we were discussing sleep, what if they struggle to fall asleep, even with a consistent bedtime routine. And that's where it's going to sound backwards, but getting up and seeing the sunrise. So having a consistent routine, sleep and wake, right? Sometimes
Hmm.
when people struggle to fall asleep, then they sleep in the next day, or they, alter their consistency. And being consistent, yes, even if you've only slept, 5, 6 hours, still getting up, seeing that sunrise, there's a lot of benefits to the hormones and melatonin specifically that we can end up and get from sunrise as well as UVA light. So making sure that you are, getting that first light in the morning, be a little bit, more diligent about being outside, seeing that if you can't get outside to see that, at least getting to an open door or a window, um, will end up and help your sleep. Now, if you struggle to stay asleep or even fall asleep, that can also be a cortisol issue.
Hmm.
Um, you got to kind of work on some of these, parasympathetic activities. I have my bands off of them right now, but I end up and I have these little touch points. I love them. Typically I have them in my socks while I'm on the meetings in the evening. But you can turn them on and I don't think you can probably hear them, but they end up and they vibrate and get them shut back off. And I love those. Breath work, if you don't have to buy a product, just simple breath work in the evening, magnesium bath, tapping is another great option, free option that you can end up and use. But doing any of those type of things will help with sleep. Otherwise, also doing like a tablespoon or a little less of fat prior to bed will
Yep.
help with lowering that cortisol. It also, yes, technically it can break a fast because it stops the autophagy, right? It's caloric or calories, but it does end up and mimic a fast. That's why we did the fat fast. But you can also it will help to provide the body with just enough to calm that cortisol so that it's not stressing and help you fall asleep. So if it's the struggle of falling asleep or staying asleep, sometimes it can be a blood sugar issue too. So meal spacing, there's a lot of strategies that can go into sleep.
Yeah, I know. I've gotten the question, but I can't shut my mind off. What do you do for that?
That's where even like a meditation or
Hmm.
the breath work, if you can do even body scanning, because sometimes if you can't shut the mind off, oh, I should have done the dishes, or oh, I need to pick this up at the grocery store tomorrow, or oh crap, I should have done this while I was on the computer, starts to race through. If you do what I call box breathing, right? Breathe in, hold, and then exhale. Breathe in through your nose. That helps to increase the nitric oxide. But as you're holding, be thinking of, I need to end up and relax my shoulders. And as you're doing that, relax your shoulders and exhale, and then just fully body scan. And that gives the mind something else that it has to focus on instead of the 20 things that you should have done that didn't get done. That's one of the things I will use a lot of times with clients because they have woke up in the middle of the night and invariably they're like, oh, but I want to, turn some sound on, white noise on, or,
Yeah.
I want to end up and I've had several that will be like, well, I was awake, so I started to read my Kindle. Your Kindle
Yeah.
is another blue light, right? The
Yeah.
Kindle is
Yeah.
just as bad as looking at the phone. I don't care if you have blue blockers on, it alters the serotonin and the dopamine. So don't be scrolling your phone at night because that's not beneficial. And just really try to calm down. But like I said, if the body won't, that's where even a little bit of fat, if it's 1 a.m. or whatever.
So I've noticed something, and I've meant to tell you this, but you know how we can turn our phones on red, uh,
Hmm.
which I do every night. Um, Here's what's interesting. So, and I've done that for, gosh, I don't know, a year and a half or so. I've done that. Um, but what's funny is when I put my blue blockers, so I have red lenses too. When I have the red lenses on and I have my phone on the red,
Hmm.
when I take the glasses off and just look at the phone with the red, you can see a huge difference of
The
what am
light
I tr
coming through.
the
Yeah.
light coming
The the
through.
the filtration. So
Uh-huh.
for instance, like my computer has software on it, right? That is red. So my computer screen's red. My phone will be red. But the filtration rate that those programs, it's
Yeah.
not
Ooh,
going to be
excuse me.
100%,
Yeah.
right? It's not going to end up and filter all of that. So it still can have a little bit of effect. That's where, like you said, having the red blue blockers, the orange in the evening. I
Yep.
don't typically recommend wearing the red ones until like 30 minutes to an hour
Yep.
before you're going to bed. So if you're in bed at 9 o'clock, start wearing them at 8.
Yep.
That type of thing. But yeah, it does end up and make a difference. And ideally, we want the lux of light to be less than 10. So many people, also have like bright overhead lights, right? We've had comments in regards of why am I sitting in, the dark essentially, or red light, and that's part of it, is so that it helps my sleep, because I am up here in the office working in the evening time, but it it prevents me from being blasted with a bunch of blue light, because that's going to signal to my body that it's basically middle of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I wish I could change these lights out in the travel trailer. Um this is like it's flat and you push the middle button, like I don't even know how to take it out, like to see what bulbs in there. But I also live with my husband, right? And he wouldn't appreciate having
well,
everything changed over right to red lights.
well, and that's where, so we compromise with my husband, because my dining room has an orange bulb or an amber colored bulb. So my downstairs essentially is an orange hue. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily red like up here in my office, but it's still low enough in that lux of light to not be disruptive. The other thing, and I know you don't have a lot of space, but the other thing a person could do is put like a red lamp, because of course that lamp doesn't come on. Um, and that lamp don't come on, and this one's tied up. Talk about a lovely planning here.
Uh, well, that's what happens when you just start talking, right?
Right. So Midwest has these nice lights, if I don't break the darn light. Jeez Louise. So there we go. There. Midwest. There we go. Shout out to
Yeah.
Midwest. So they have what they call these chillax. Whoa, bright light. But it's a red hue, right? It doesn't take up much space. It's, taller than it is big, right? So you could always, set that on like the table. And yes, it appears very bright on computer, but if I end up and I test the lux of it, it's still saying relatively low. Major silly thing.
Mhm.
There we go. Yeah. So it's saying, 10 lux. If I end up, like, I have my MR tech on just the infrared light, and it's measuring 3 to 4 as well. So that's still going to end up and hit in underneath that 10. We're going to shut this off because it's, so, even with those lights, but it would be minimal enough that you could end up and use it in the evening time. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
too intense.
Yeah. Yeah. And going back to, we've had comments where, why is Becky in red and why we can't see your eyes, Sherry? You have your blue blockers on. And it's like, yeah. And I had not worn them for quite a while when we did the podcast, and also have a harder time falling asleep on Monday nights when I don't. So Becky and I had talked about it, and it's like, no, we're going to continue what we do. Even on the podcast, we will just explain it again and again and again, on why Becky's red and you can't see my eyes.
Yep.
But it's honestly, it's for our health. I mean, this is, you know, these are things that are non-negotiable. Um, so
Yeah, it's like I said, it's all part of that. What can I control? I
mhm,
mean, there's going to be things in your environment. There's going to be things in your life that you don't have control of, right? I
right.
was on meeting the other day that we were discussing the fact of, yes, EMFs, have a bad rap. But are we going to be able to continue to outrun the cell phone towers? Are we going to be able to continue to outrun, you know, computers and technology and all of that?
Yeah.
No, we're not. Unfortunately, guys, we're really not. We can protect ourselves the best way that we can, but we're not going to be able to outrun it. I mean, it's already grown across the United States in a massive form in the last 5-10 years. We're not going to be able to. So what can we end up when we do? And this is part of how I can control, right? Yeah. I can control my home environment. Yes, I am fortunate. I am pretty rural right now, versus some people that live in, suburban populated areas.
Oh yeah, when we were in Houston, and I think you remember this, our neighbor put the eaves lights around their house. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what watt of light bulb they put on in those, but it lit up our backyard. In fact, you could walk out into our living room, kitchen, dining room area with the blinds closed and it was still lit up. It was crazy on how much light pollution there was. And, you can't do anything about it. So, it was, that's when I started to do the blue blockers and the things I could control. And then we sell our house and move into our 32-foot travel trailer. And there's still things that I had, I had a red light bulb in my lamp in my office that is now packed away in our storage unit. I don't have, these travel trailers don't have like the traditional, let's screw in a light bulb. So I've had to do other things. My husband gets up and starts work before I do. So I'm getting up and the first thing I'm doing is I'm putting on my blue blockers so I can get outside so I can take them off and get my natural light in. So it's just little things like that again we've had to tweak and do. And I know I've read where, oh, turn off your Wi-Fi at night, and I'm like, oh my goodness, my husband would lose his ever loving mind if I turned the Wi-Fi off at night and he got up and forgot and tried to log into work. And like you said, it's real life stuff that you have to make adjustments, and you're not going to outrun it all.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's where even some people, they don't want the amber bulbs. They don't want the red bulbs like you in the camper. They maybe aren't able to change it. If they can change it, I would end up, suggesting like an incandescent versus a bright LED. But yeah, it's control your controllables and continue to work on adding an extra controllable each week. Yeah. Maybe that's 10 steps further, right? Maybe that's an hour extra sleep. Whatever area you need to focus on, end up and just continue to be better the next day or the next week, whatever your goal is.
Yeah. Well, it's funny and because you and I'll talk, but how much I fiercely protect my sleep now, which is a whole complete, 1/6 of whatever, like then when I started. And now it's like, we'll be on a meeting and it's like, going, it's, 8:30, 9:00, like my body is shutting down. My body knows. I've got it trained now that it's tired. I can tell, if you don't get enough sleep in the middle of the night because of children and things like that, I mean, we pay the price of protecting our sleep. And it's wild how when you finally get to that level of, and I'm not saying go out and buy a whole bunch of expensive stuff, set a normal bedtime, stop scrolling, see the sunrise, see the sunset, wear the glasses. I mean, Just the glasses alone made a huge difference for me when I was starting down this path. But I think we got a question, Becky.
I see that. Is there a good place to get incandescent bulbs? Stores don't seem to carry them. Now that they are actually there was a ban on incandescents. I will use, it's called 1000bulbs.com. They literally have 1,000 bulbs. About any bulb that you need, you can find at 1000bulbs.com. So there's pretty much any size, shape bulb you need. You can end up and find there. So
That was actually a good question.
If anyone has any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, throw them in the comments, depending which platform you're watching on. And I just pulled up the 1,000 bulbs, and it says search over 15,000 products. So pretty much if you need to find a bulb, you'll find it there. No matter what size or shape you need. I'm just looking at Instagram over there. Y'all are
That's fine. So while you're looking, so funny story. So when they no longer would sell the incandescent light bulbs, I can't. I'm kind of a prepper, and so I went out and I bought a lot of them, and they're in storage right now. I mean, it's hysterical that we have a lot that we stocked up on. But yeah, it's funny how and I didn't even know why I was doing it at the time. I just knew I didn't want the LED for some reason. Like this was right pre my healing journey. Funny story, huh?
We tend to end up and do that. I have some in my basement. I mean, like I said, I've since switched things out to red lights, up here in the office. Even when we have a guest on, I kick the overhead light on. It's one of those fixtures that have 2 bulbs in it. One's orange, one's red. So, even that light's changed out. I know my daughter stayed with us one weekend, and she's like, "Mom, your office is all red." Yep, because that's where I spend my evening. Now, mind you, I could show you the walls. There's not even a TV up here in this room. So, it's definitely that place of tranquility, I guess, if that's how you want to say it. Well,
I've got no questions on any of my. Let me double check. It's a slow night tonight.
Everybody's quiet Monday. If they said, if anyone's watching on here on YouTube, feel free to post them in the comments.
Let's see. And before I started, when the sun was setting before our podcast, by gosh, I went out and I was outside getting that sunset. Because again, I know the importance of how that affects my sleep.
Yep. Yep, it definitely ends up and makes a difference.
Yeah, I was going to say it was pretty tonight too, the sunset.
Awesome. Well, sweet friends, looks like it may be a short one.
Yeah, it's usually we can talk an hour, but apparently not tonight. Anyway.
Well, I mean, I could end up and ramble on about something, but
yeah, I guess we need to have a few shorter podcasts, right? Somebody put a thumbs up. I like that.
Becky, are you noticing any food changes after working out more?
Oh,
Yes, April. Um, I am. And that's one of the things that I am changing this week, and we will talk about next Monday, is the different changes that I've been able to make. So part of my journey, right, has when I did carnivore from 2019 to 2021, I was definitely the higher fat side of things. I've done more seasonal eating since 2021, and incorporated the different seasonal aspects. Some of that has been carnivore, some's been keto, some's been fermented foods. And now, with incorporating some of the strength training specifically, not necessarily the cardio, but the strength training side of things, I am noticing a shift in hunger on certain days. And so I am adjusting accordingly. But yeah, I'm doing a little bit more tedious tracking. Many of you know I stepped away from a lot of the tracking that I was doing of, weighing my meals, measuring all of that stuff. But I'm being a little bit more mindful, I'll put it that way, because I'm not necessarily, how did you refer to it? Militant? Is that how you
oh
referred to it
yeah,
last week?
yeah, militant. Yep,
I'm
I
not
am.
quite that point, but yeah, I will definitely be sharing over the next week, and then I will kind of do a recap next Monday.
Yeah, yeah. And to further answer that, Becky and I talked during the day a lot, and I remember the one day, and you were like, "I'm hungry,"
Mhm. Well, and
and it
and
was
that's
like,
where it's
"Oh,
shifted,
yeah,
because the meal composition is changing. What I ratios are changing, um, but it's not. That's why I say I'm being more aware of it, I guess. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. I'm being more aware of it to the point where recognizing the difference, being that intuitive side, right? Um, but I haven't really blogged it out, right? I haven't really kept track of it. And so that's why I said it's going to start getting added into my blog, or into our blog, more of like a full day recap of, this is what my workout was, this is what I ate today, this is, that type of thing. Because yeah, there's several things that are changing.
well," and I think that's a great point, that you have to shift.
Mhm.
The macros have to change for whatever season you're in. I have found that out, because I was, like you said, I was too militant. And I said that about myself, um, that it caused me to tank my thyroid, my hormones, and my blood sugar went out of control. Um, I'm having to add some good carbs back in. One day a week. I actually did 2 days this week. It wasn't a lot, it was a little bit, but I allowed myself to have it, where before it was something like, oh, no, no, it's a carb. I can't eat that. That's bad. Um, and in healing my, in healing what I've done to myself, um, it's having to change the macros. It's having to shift. It's no longer about being this strict carnivore person, or anything like that. Everybody's on a different journey. If I ate the way Becky did, um, my body couldn't sustain that. But if Becky ate the way I did, her body couldn't sustain that. And I think that's the big thing that I find on social media that just sends me off the edge, is people follow some of these influencers like so closely and they have to do what they're doing. And it's like, no, it's a snapshot of what they're doing, but your body is not their body. And it just, kind of sets my, I want to grit my teeth.
And that's why I hesitate posting,
Mhm.
right? I hesitate posting my food. I hesitate posting my macros because it's my path right now, right? I couldn't have done this when I was carnivore. I couldn't have done this when I was, healing the Hashimoto's. I couldn't have done it when I was pre-diabetic. It's been a journey, right? And this is just the phase that I'm in right now. I've learned to never say never. So with that being said, I will make the comment that I have noticed that I have to eat more. And I am very I don't want to sound like a bitch. I am very encouraging of others to really take a honest look at what they are consuming, because many times people are under consuming, not knowing. They'll be like, "Well, I ate today." Okay, but what did you eat? Well, I ate 2 eggs and you know, sausage link. Or I ate, whatever the case may be. Well, a couple strips of bacon and an egg. That's not enough.
Mm-mm.
You're going to start down regulating. And so yes, there have been some positive shifts, there's been some negative shifts. There's been some, okay, I've got to, reevaluate and structure a little different. But yeah, it's all a work in progress.
And it's none of us are truly, totally at the, oh, I'm healed, ta-da!
Yeah.
It's ongoing. Um, and yeah, April said you're feeding your new muscles. I like that. Yes. Yes.
Well, and yeah, and that's learning the nutrition that the body wants.
Mhm.
I'm currently, I will tell you, I'm fluctuating, right? I'm not just um adding more protein, you know, but that may not work for someone else.
Right. Well, I mean, if you follow, oh, come on, Sykes,
Robert Sykes.
Robert Sykes, you know, he definitely knows how to handle his body, and he blogs about it. He sends that, you know, weekly email, kind of what he does. And I mean, he's a keto, um, I'm drawing a
Bodybuilder.
bodybuilder. Yeah. Um, but he knows what his body needs. And it's interesting because I'm watching right now his wife, who's pregnant, and she's working out, she's lifting heavy and building muscle, but she's also eating for her baby, that she's pregnant. So again, it's all a different, you know, uh, what our I think that's the big thing is you have to figure out what your body wants, and it's a trial and error. That's the big thing that, and again, I was just too militant on, oh, this is the way I'm going to eat and that's it. And I'm not, it literally got down to every carb was bad. And that was my mindset. And yeah, I'm having to reteach my body. I'm having to change things up. Becky's having to change things up. And hopefully it gives everyone kind of the nudge you need to keep going, to know that, I don't know where that brain thought went. It's gone.
Well, the nudge of nothing is cookie cutter. Nothing is going to be a one size fits all program. So if it isn't tailoring to you, you need to be able to listen to your body and not continue to, force forward if you're not feeling good, right? you should be able to notice a difference. Like I said, it's all an n equals 1.
Mhm.
So yes, there are guidelines, right? But like you said, there's people that maybe are pregnant or breastfeeding, or people that work out a little bit more than others, people that have insulin issues, people that have leptin resistance. They're all going to eat a little bit different,
Mhm.
and that's where you have to figure out the macro that works. Because just because I'm able to do, now, even on my carb days, I would end up and tell you you're probably not eating enough carbs, but on my carb days, I'm able to tolerate more, right?
Mhm.
It's a
Mhm.
starting point. So n equals 1.
N equals 1. Yeah. Well, hopefully, everyone walked away tonight with something that they learned, or something, that a little negative something. That's the whole point, that Becky, we want to help. Um, we have a passion to help folks. And so, yeah. Oh, and speaking of, we've got another guest in the works, but not till the end of April or May. Did you see that?
March.
March? Was it
Yeah,
March or May?
March.
March.
Yeah. So we have a couple guests in the work. We have Bill, Dr. Bill, coming up the 17th. So he will be with us. That'll be another VIP for the MFF group. I know we haven't had the speakers that we thought. We'll get a couple more in here, but before we're done the end of February. But yeah, I want to say it's like the 31st of March.
March, yeah. Yeah. We'd reached out to someone and who we've had on previously, and she was like, "Okay, this is when." I was like, "Wow, that feels like forever from now."
It'll go fast.
Yeah.
But all right, sweet friends, unless you all have questions, I've got the I needed to deal more full and loving my newly added green beans and low calorie, low carb, and they don't hurt me anymore. That's awesome, April. And
Yeah.
that's the way it is, of slowly incorporate things back in and do what works for you.
And if you
So
guys are wondering, who is April? So if you go back a year in January, we talked to April. April is a type 1 diabetic. So she's on a whole different, you know, healing journey than what Becky and I are even on. But you can go back and listen to her story as well. And she's learning how. She's pivoting too. She's changing her macros and changing things up. So I think we need to have April back on to get an update. It's been a year. What do you think?
that's
April,
awesome.
April, I'm talking to you, April. I know she's listening. So,
Awesome.
all right. Well, I'm good.
All right, sweet friends, have a wonderful evening, and we will see you all next week. And